There she is. Are you there?
Ta-da!
Yeah.
I genuinely thought that I couldn't hear you, didn't know how to get on, didn't know what was going on then at all.
You're so funny.
Technology, like I proper play on the technology thing because you just use it every day, 24/7, don't you? And then suddenly you do something like this, and you're like, why can I suddenly not work technology?
Well, we're here now. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Bossing the Menopause, episode 2. That's
Episode
mental.
2. Well, we made it. We're committed to it, and we made
I know,
it.
didn't we? We're so clever. Well done, us.
Well, yeah, a 4-week notice period is clearly what we're good at working to.
Yeah, 4 weeks notice in the diary. Make sure I need to move my phone. Hold on, there we go. Make sure it's all set up, and here we are. We love it.
It's like when you promise a mate that you're going to go to the gym, and genuinely, I've been running around. My bloody boiler's broken today, and I've committed, so I had to be on tonight. It was like my thing I was looking forward to as well during the day today.
Yeah, me too. Me too. How's your week been? Well, last week.
Last week's been really good. Busy as usual, but in terms of the things that we were talking about in episode 1 and nailing down my nutrition's been, like, honestly, I'm proper patting myself on the back for last week. Like, I know, totally. I'm like, I've got no one. The dog's asleep. There's no one else here to pat me on the back. So nutrition on point, and I was looking. So I have been tracking. I went back to tracking. I wasn't tracking, but now I have, because I did want to really, really dial in. And so done that, and yeah, feeling good. And yeah, and that's the other thing, just felt so good for it. And the routine. I mean, these are all really unsexy things, but oh my God, like 6 a.m. wake up every day, straight out with the dog, even though it's been freezing cold, crap weather, things like that. The dog just makes such a difference.
I know. I know.
Gets you out, doesn't it?
It does.
So, what about you, my love?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm just moving my chair so I don't fall over it, because I'm at my standing desk.
Good on you. I love a standing desk.
Yeah, I'm good. My nutrition has been okay. My training, so last week I did 30-minute sessions instead of doing like 45, 50-minute sessions, and then did 5 rather than, doing kind of 4 or 5 longer ones. And I just felt like I had so much more energy, and they weren't any less intense, so that was good. So I'm going to play around with that. Nutrition's been okay. I went to my mother-in-law's for a Sunday roast yesterday, and that's one of my, sorry if you've got any kids listening, but that's a fuck yes meal for me, because she makes like rhubarb crumble for pudding. She makes the best roast potatoes ever. So that for me is a no-brainer that I'm going to eat all of that food.
Yeah, but the thing is, this is me as well. There are some things that are, it's non-negotiables, and but you just work them into your plan, don't you?
Exactly. So yeah, feeling good, and just, we will move on to our topic, but because we were talking last time about fat loss and menopause, so the scales haven't changed very much, but the measurements have. So we know this, and we tell people this all the time.
Yeah, just funny. I've not been weighing, but I've got the whole of, there's a pair of jeans that I've put on that are definitely a lot more comfortable than they were before.
Yeah.
So no, that is it. Well, that's ace. So we're 4 weeks down with that, and it's just that lifestyle thing. Do you know what I absolutely love, before we move on, actually, is depending on which tracker you're using, pretty much they all do it. But I use my Fitness Pal and being able to then look at your week on average rather than, that day by day. Because I
Yeah,
think for a lot of our clients, it's that, day by day is what messes with your head.
yeah,
And being able to use certain things on apps and like look at your average, and actually step back and reflect like that, you can, days like you've just said, where you just, it's totally guilt free, enjoy it, and
yeah,
it's this.
for sure,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, it's so good. Treat it as a weekly allowance, not a
Yeah,
daily, for sure. That's really
absolutely.
handy at this time of year as well.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
handy at any
completely.
time of year, but yeah.
Yeah.
Um, okay. Anything else?
No, let's do this. Let's we are going to jump in, aren't we, to menopause and that big question
Yeah.
that you.
So we briefly talked about this Sunday morning when Anne made this really cruel joke about me putting my face on. So today I didn't put any face on. Yeah, basically I said I'd send her something when I'd finished putting my face on. She said she didn't have that long to wait. Nice.
That's such a good
Um,
read.
anyway, so we were talking, weren't we? Because we both get this question all the time. How do you know if you're menopausal, perimenopausal? How do you know? And we want to talk about that today because if you listened to episode 1, if you didn't, you can get it wherever you get your podcasts. Then you will know that I was treated for depression for years and years and years before I actually worked out I was perimenopausal. We both have experience of being confused by symptoms and stuff, but also our clients, both of us have had experience where we've said to our clients, maybe you should go and have a chat with a GP because the things you're talking about sound like perimenopause symptoms. So we just thought it was a really good thing to talk about, but remembering, if you're listening to this and watching this, we're not GPs, we're coaches that support menopausal women to get fit, get healthy, and also and thrive, and help them to manage their symptoms as well through nutrition, exercise, lifestyle. But we're not GPs and we can't diagnose you. So little caveat there.
Yeah, I say it all the time, especially when people are asking me really specific questions or end up going down the HRT route. I'm like, nah, that's not my lane.
No.
I'm staying in my lane.
Yeah,
This
staying in.
is, and that's important for people to hear as well, because then they understand the information they're getting from us as well.
Yeah.
But so, with your own experience, then, what would you say are some of the symptoms that you completely and utterly ignored as not being, you were like, you didn't even entertain that it was perimenopause?
Yeah. So for me, I would say the first the first symptoms that I probably ignored were the anxiety and the low mood, and that probably was due to the fact I had postnatal depression. So I was, I thought, not at the time, I obviously had postnatal depression when I had Charlie 13 years ago, but I thought, oh, it's just, depression raising its head again. So that was really easy to just ignore. And then I think the other thing that was really easy to ignore and isn't talked about enough was vaginal dryness. Oh,
Yeah. I just did the last podcast I just did was with women's health expert. So every time I speak to her, she teaches me more and more about it. But it is one of those not just vaginal dryness, but it is one of the symptoms, along with all the other pelvic related symptoms that people, it's almost like a nick for people, because they're like, oh, I better not talk, I can't talk about this. And it is so important to talk about, because for that reason, so that people actually join those dots up.
Yeah.
And I always,
Yeah.
this is one of my absolute passions, though, is that, you know, through us doing this, and through whatever it is, whatever work we happen to be doing and other people are doing, that when somebody gets to, you know, experience some of these symptoms, that they actually don't question it, and they go, do you know something, this seems, I've heard of this, this seems really like perimenopause, right? I now have the information, I've got the knowledge, and now I can start making my decisions about my body.
Yeah.
But we get asked it so regularly, don't
Yeah.
we? The how do you know? And that, it can be a difficult question to answer, because everybody is individual. However, there are some things that people can do to help them identify whether or not they then want to have a conversation with a GP or a coach.
Yeah.
What do people come to you with in terms of symptoms then?
Low mood, and mood swings, joint pain, which they often put down to being overweight, fatigue, which you know, and fatigue's a funny one, isn't it? Right? We're both 40 something mums running businesses, we've got kids, you know, life is tiring, but there is a fatigue that comes with, for me anyway, with perimenopause, that no matter how much sleep I think I've caught up on, I just feel exhausted. Sleep problems, a lot of them, general aches and pains. What about you?
Yeah, very similar. Quite a few of those. I'll tell you one that comes up that that I think people don't realise it can be a symptom. Is dizziness and vertigo. And the reason why I mention that is because I've experienced that, and I now am pretty much convinced that I was experiencing it when I didn't realise that I was perimenopausal, but I was. So I used to go running. Like, I would love to still be running at the moment, but that's a whole other story. But I'd be running, and then I'd kind of start feeling like mega dizzy, and I'd be like looking down. I'd try and like really focus on one spot on the horizon, kind of thing, you know. Isn't that what ballerinas do when they're spinning around? They're like, look,
And in yoga.
Yeah. So, and I just didn't realise, but it then sparked me thinking about it again, when a few people, when I was handing out an event, a list of symptoms, and it wasn't an exhaustive list at all, but on it is vertigo, and a few of them, you can hear them going, when they go down the list of symptoms, going, oh my god, oh, is that really one? Is it? And that's one that comes up quite a lot, that I don't think necessarily, you know, when you read a lot of information, it's not one that's, say, at the top of the list, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But before we hopped, I've got to say this, before we hopped on, I just like, and I was like Captain Google, because an ex-GP said to me about, was saying, oh, there's like, they've now reckoned they've identified over 80 symptoms or something. So I was like, right, come on, let's get a definitive, because the science geek in me comes out. And it just makes me laugh. There's like, you know, when it comes up a list on Google, so one of them is, what are the 60 symptoms? What are the 37? So I'd prefer 37. What are the 48? What are the 50? I'm like, right, so basically, like, can we just agree that there's a hell of a lot of them, and we can't control that bit, but what we can control is maybe a few things to help us identify whether or not they're symptoms that, you know, of perimenopause.
Yeah. I think the important thing to say is that, you know, if I spoke to my mum or my stepmom, and said, oh, what do you think the the symptoms of menopause are? Bearing in mind my mum was put in medical menopause at 28, they would probably say hot flushes and your period stopping, right? And so it's a really important thing to realize that they are not the only symptoms, and they are not the symptoms that you necessarily might get first. You know, I very rarely get a hot flush.
No, I don't think I've really had them during the day. It's been night.
Night
It was
sweats.
nights. It was night sweats that
Yeah,
were
for me too.
horrific for me.
Yeah,
I mean, it was literally new clothes, new bedding
yeah,
time. I mean, like the M&S made a lot of money out of me
yeah,
when I didn't know what the hell was going on with me. But yeah, and I think it's that. So we, you know, again, we've had these conversations about how we've had conversations with clients or at events and things, but there's so many really good symptom trackers out there, and I
yeah,
think depending on what your jam is, if you really like having apps on your phone, there's some really good apps.
yeah,
I think I always recommend the Balance app, because it's just got so much information on there. If you suddenly kind of have one of those like 2 a.m. thoughts of like, oh my god, no, what is this, you know, you can jot it down and then you can search on there. They've got a brilliant library of information as well. But it I also speak to a lot of people that they don't like doing things on their
no.
phones. But you know, there's paper trackers as well. What do you have you yourself, do you track, or did you track, or is it something that you personally do?
I tracked and then took what I tracked to my GP to have the conversation. I quite like paper trackers because I like, you know, everything else I do is electronic, but with that, I quite like to be able to, because I enjoy journaling and because I like to, you know, for me, a lot of my symptoms were not necessarily physical symptoms. They were psychological symptoms as well. I found the journaling aspect quite helpful. So I used paper trackers. Never quite found one that I loved, which is why I might have a little project going on in the background. Um,
Hey.
but that's what I use, because then I found when I was feeling quite a strong emotion, I was able to then use the paper tracker to, you know, connect some dots and things like that. But I think even just, you know, there are free just lists of
Oh
symptoms
yeah, there are, like I
all
just
over the
I
place.
use the I just use the really basic one on it's actually on the Menopause Charity website.
Yeah,
It's a PDF,
yeah,
and you know, it's not an exhaustive list, and I think that's also important. Is, you know, you were saying about journaling, and is that just asking yourself a simple question of how do I
yeah,
feel?
yeah,
It means that that you're not putting yourself into a box of one of these symptoms and kind of looking at a list of symptoms and going, well, what I think isn't on this
yeah,
list.
yeah,
And sometimes that it can force you then to discount it
yeah,
and not think it's going to be, you know,
yeah,
perimenopause. And I
yeah,
think that's probably an important thing to note, is that, you know, no list is exhaustive, and, you know, make sure that if there's something else you are either feeling, or, you know, it's a physical symptom, and, you know, that you're actually noting that down, and thinking about, well, how much is this impacting upon my lifestyle as well,
mm,
is a question I ask
yeah,
quite a lot
yeah,
of clients, because well, said it already, I'm going to be a broken record, but it's so individual.
yeah,
And yeah, I think that helped me massively in terms of really drilling down into the ones that were impacting upon my lifestyle, and therefore having that conversation. And for me, it was a conversation with my GP. That might not be what, you know, for everybody, but I think that being able to open up that conversation and have the questions you know, be armed with those questions is really empowering.
Yeah, yeah, and being so we were talking before we came on. You know, I said I've been listening to the Menopausing by Davina. I haven't quite finished it yet. Spotify Audible hours,
Oh,
audio hours screwed me. I
you'll
didn't realize
love the end of it.
but it's, you know, just knowledge is power, and this is what I want everyone to hear, is that it doesn't matter who you are. If you are a woman, at some point you will go through menopause. If you are a man, at some point a woman you know will go through menopause, and it does not just affect the woman.
Not at all. Oh my God.
No. So there's that. But then you've also got this piece around knowledge being power. And through school, we're taught about, you know, puberty, we're taught about pregnancy, we're taught about sexual health. What thing are we not taught about?
Yeah, 100%. And it's the exact thing that I've said to my
Yeah,
daughters. Of you know, I mean, they're sick of, they're literally sick of me banging on about it. But this is, you know, you ask a teenager, or you know, a young person, the question, oh, how do you think we can make sure that everybody knows what menopause is and knows what to do should they suspect that they are menopausal? Because another thing that we're saying about was, I'm going off at so many tangents, but was you know, there's early menopause as well, and you know, why not teach it in schools? And it was exactly what my daughter said to me, my 16-year-old daughter. She was like, well, can't the government
yeah.
just say that they've got to
Change the
teach it?
curriculum.
I know exactly, and I know there's so many. I mean, I know, given my history as a teacher, I know that there are so many
Yeah,
pressures. But there are some things that are so unbelievably important. I've heard of, you know, 14, 15, 16-year-old girls that have ovarian insufficiency and didn't know what was going on, and cancer treatments
yeah,
as well, and you know, and surgical menopause. All these things are so damn important
yeah,
to talk about. And no matter who I am in a room with, whenever I am talking about this subject, I learn
yeah,
something every single time. There is no course that in the world that is going to give us enough information or make it any better than actually getting in a room with people.
yeah, and
Yeah,
talking, yeah,
it's
and that
massively powerful.
and that's it. And it, you know, much like dieting, right? There's no one size fits all approach to a fix here. There's also no magic. There's no magic. You know, both of us have had great experiences with HRT. Not everyone can take it. More people than they think can take it. A lot of people are still quite scared off of it. But there is no one, when it comes to lifestyle, there's no menopause diet, there's no menopause workout, there's no menopause routine.
There's
You know,
no
there's
menopause bracelet. Can I just
no,
put that one out there? Because
yeah,
I'm so
yeah,
sick of seeing that.
that one,
Oh
just
my
what a
God, I
joke.
was raging when I first
Anyone,
saw that.
anyone that is trying to sell you a bracelet, um, a, a, a hormone cleansing pill, any supplement that has Meno on it is probably
Zero
just
evidence,
is
or very
probably just a
tenuous.
multivitamin, and they've just added 15 quid to the price and added menopause on the label. So,
Absolutely.
you know, there is none of this. But remember that knowledge is power. Educate yourselves, you know, follow people like us, find other you know, like I said, I'm really enjoying Davina's book. There are plenty of accounts on Instagram, you know, there are plenty of GPs and stuff that really talk about it, but we should probably lean into this into diet and lifestyle and exercise, because that's our lane
Yeah,
really.
yeah, and absolutely, and it's the thing that we personally have found helpful,
Yeah.
regardless of our jobs. That,
Yeah.
you know, and I think that for me is so powerful as well, because for us to be able to stand there and go, do you know what, this is what I'm experiencing at the moment, and it's not a linear thing. It's not great every day.
No.
And I think the thing that surprised me as I discovered I was perimenopausal was the fact that I still have a cycle. I can still pinpoint things that are going on with my body, because I am now tracking
Yeah.
it, and I'm making sure that I understand on a monthly basis what's going on with my body, because that then feeds into things like my training. And well, you were just saying, and was that before or not? Oh my God, that's bloody men. Have you said that about training on this,
No,
or was that our call
that was
before?
our call
That was
before.
okay. So,
Shall I say what I said earlier? Yeah. So this morning, and actually all of last week, I felt incredibly anxious first thing in the morning. And I think I even sent you a message, didn't I? Just saying, like,
yeah,
I feel really anxious. And it was waves of it just rolling over me. And I don't train first thing in the morning. I train about 9:30, 10 o'clock. And this morning it hit me. And you know what? I nearly didn't go to the gym. I nearly talked myself out of it, because I was like, oh, you're too anxious. You're obviously anxious because you've got loads of work to do. Just stay and do the work. And I forced myself out, mainly because Aldi is next to the gym and I needed the Aldi shop. But I went and I threw around some heavy stuff for 45 minutes, and my brain could not focus on all of the little rabbit holes it was taking me down. My heart was not doing palpitations, because I was focused on that heavy barbell on my back. And I jumped on Instagram actually and did a quick story afterwards. I walked out of that gym and I felt like a different person, because you have to focus on what you're doing when you're training. And it doesn't have to be weight training, yet we will both talk about how important that is as a perimenopausal woman. If you're running even 5k, you can't focus on the shit going on in your head. You need to focus on one foot in front of the other, otherwise you're going to stack it.
yeah.
It's the same.
Sorry, go on.
Well, it doesn't really matter what exercise you're doing, but there is something, I don't know whether someone of official capacity said this, or this was someone within our AFM group, but exercise is the only non-controversial treatment for menopause there is. There is absolutely no question about it that regularly exercising will help your menopause symptoms.
Yeah, I categorically 100% would agree with that. Like I had this Sunday morning. I could have very easily stood and coached within the class, and then I'd programmed a pairs workout, and there were three. Someone had cancelled off, so there were three, and it was like, right, odd numbers. Okay, all right, I'm
I'll
in.
jump in.
And to be fair, I completely and utterly was in my own head not going to be doing it, and had taught myself out of it because niggles, whatever was going, whatever excuse I was telling myself, that was the reason I wasn't doing it. And then at the end of it, well, in the middle of it, as much as sometimes you can hate it in the middle, but I was just like, oh, I'm so pleased I did this. But it wasn't necessarily just about the exercising, the endorphins, that kind of thing. The thing for me that I think is massively, massively beneficial, or we know that it is, but it's the social aspect as well.
Yeah.
That when you are in that, sometimes when you're in that hole together, you're in an absolutely, you might be in a disgusting workout, a big hole together, and you're just sort of suffering together a bit. It's absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
Is that feeling of like, and then at the end, and and it's that is a massive thing too. And I think if you're in that situation like you were, where you didn't want to go and things like that, that sometimes if you do start have a little pal on your shoulder, or if you do have like that critical friend to be going to the gym with or something like that,
Mm.
that really really helps as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess what I'm saying is with way too many words, is that there are so many far-reaching benefits of it. The ripple effect of exercising, regardless of being menopause, and I know that, but we're on this subject on this podcast, is the far-reaching effects of exercise for perimenopausal symptoms is just
Yeah.
huge, absolutely huge. I think what probably needs to be talked about more is how we might change that up to respond to some of the
Yeah.
symptoms, such as the aches and pains, the recovery taking longer
Yeah.
as well as a result of, because again, we can't just assume, and well, don't assume at all, that everybody has HRT, and that that isn't the
No.
case, and therefore you don't necessarily have everybody that been able to replace those hormones that they're losing.
Yeah.
And therefore doing something like the exercise and the nutrition and all these things that holistically contribute towards managing those symptoms.
Yeah.
That's what needs talking about more. And that I think you'd have to go a long way to find someone to disagree with you that exercise and good nutrition is great,
Yeah.
no matter who you are, gender, age, stage, whatever.
Yeah. Absolutely. On the recovery point, I think it's really important to say as well, because this is something that I've noticed, is so even though I have HRT, my recovery is completely different to what it ever used to be. I put a lot of that down to the sleep disturbance, because I'm still not great with sleeping. Um, but for the last week and a bit, I've been doing shorter workouts, like I said, that only take me like 30 minutes, and the recovery from that has been so much better.
Oh,
uh,
that's good. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and it's certainly one of the things that I speak to clients about, and
Yeah.
speak and also speak to coaches, speak to gym owners about, is and 99.9% of coaching gym owners are absolutely amazing with it. That it's just that communication and allowing us a bit of flexibility in terms
Mm.
of if you're there. So say for it, I'm in the CrossFit world a hell of a lot, and if you're consistent, if you are going into just classes, then you're going into classes that are programmed. And I know, because this has been me as well, that there are women that will be going to classes and feel that they can't necessarily speak up about wanting to perhaps not go as hard in, for example, the Metcon versus the strength bit, or or any of this. It's more the conversations and opening them up. And I think being able to do that more is really really powerful.
Mm.
Because I've been in that situation where I've thought to myself, oh crap, I don't feel like I can go really as intense as I might ordinarily have, but is that something that I feel comfortable sharing with, and the reasons behind it? And then and then it's like, oh my god, and then it's going to take me ages to explain it, and and all this, and it's like, well, yeah, talk to us, talk to the coaches, talk to ask questions, because that is exactly what we're there to do and to help
Yeah.
with.
Yeah.
And I think you've just said it with the recovery, and there's you can get so much out of doing those short workouts.
Mm.
You really can.
Yeah. and
Like,
and you're saving yourself a bit of time. But yeah, it's just be focused, get in, get out. I was loving it last week.
yeah, And it's something I've just started building in for my guys in my studio here,
Mm,
doing like it's like an express strength
yeah,
session and giving them that option, which means that if they don't want to go to the hour class, they can dip into like a half-hour one.
yeah,
And just again, it's kind of that flexibility, understanding what some of these, some of them are feeling and going through.
mm,
I put on an Instagram post I think this week, that aches and pains in perimenopause, they're not just bad DOMs.
no,
And it can, and again, when I didn't know, I genuinely was like, why the hell are my DOMs lasting a week from something that would ordinarily I'd be
yeah,
fine with, or I might get them a couple of days, but and that really threw me. I
mm,
genuinely thought at one point there was something, because I just didn't know. I did.
no, no. What about nutrition principles then? What do you think is, we've already said there's no menopause diet, and we know that I probably would say that I think carbs are one of the things that you can manipulate for everyone anyway. But I think in my experience, I've got different clients that respond differently to varying levels of carbs. I've got some clients that actually prefer to be on lower carbs. So probably we don't, maybe it's not a very good idea to go down the carb route.
No,
But what
but I think I think you've hit on one thing that is important, is the fact that how people individually respond to certain foods.
yeah,
Because again, I've had clients ask this question of like, why the heck, why do I feel this way? I'm like, I'm bloated and I feel like I've got IBS. I've never had IBS, they'll be eating something that they've eaten before, but
mm,
because they're hormonally they're changing, and that's having an impact on their gut biome, and that will be influencing the way that they
yeah,
feel. And I think you saying that people respond individually, and that is the case. And I think I call it a food and feel
mm,
diary. That
mm,
it isn't about, this isn't about tracking and fat loss and things like that. The fat loss might happen as a byproduct if that's a particular goal. However, by actually making a note of how you feel when you're eating certain things, that can be ultra powerful.
yeah,
It really can. It
yeah,
is one of the biggest reasons that I steer clear of a lot of dairy in my
yeah,
diet. I just and I'm not lactose intolerant, or I don't have a particular issue. It's just that I have learned over the last few years that I absolutely know that about my body. And then some
yeah,
days I'll have some and I won't be that horrendous.
yeah,
But again, I think, yeah, the individual responses when it comes to
yeah.
nutrition.
And I think, again, because there's this real lack of understanding and appreciation of just how many processes estrogen is important for within
Oh,
the body. So for me, like, I cannot eat anything like raw onion anymore, or too much garlic, because it's just awful for me.
you get the windy pops.
No,
Oh,
it repeats on me. And also, fun fact for everyone, I can't burp.
what?
Yeah, I can't burp, and I've never had brain freeze.
Oh my God. That's like challenge accepted, right? I'm going to take you. You're going to come up here and I'm going to take you to a place called the Little Ice Cream Shop. It ain't little. And the ice cream you get ain't little. And let's see if I can make you get brain
Yeah,
freeze and be like, eat
yeah,
more ice cream.
yeah.
Uh,
And then feed me fizzy pop and see if I can burp.
yeah, you've just been an absolute state. At the end of it, no, she can't birth and she didn't get brain freeze, but
No.
she's just currently over there throwing up.
But yeah, so anyway, back to seriousness.
Yeah,
So the
sorry.
way your body, you know, responds to these fluctuating hormones is completely different. But one of the biggest things that I bang on about with my menopausal clients. You're right there, love. You're just choking. This is
I
what
nearly
she get.
am.
Carry on.
I just inhaled my juice. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
Crack on.
Just die quietly. The lack of protein.
Mm.
Protein is so important. So if you know that we talk about lift weights, bone density, really, really important, but also our muscles naturally, like muscles will naturally atrophy. It's not loads, it's a little bit every year that you age. But as I think we might have said in the first episode, I want to be getting up and down off that toilet for as many years as possible on my own. So having an adequate protein to make sure that when I am lifting weights, I am maintaining as much muscle strength and tone as possible. And that is nothing to do with how I aesthetically look. That is about the biomechanics of my body. I want to be as independent for as long as possible, and so getting enough protein in your diet is so important.
I know. And the one I always get is that people struggling with breakfast. And like, who was it? Like, actually, I might be chucking a company under a bus here that it wasn't them, but wasn't it Kellogg's that they did a marketing campaign, and the marketing campaign was, "Oh, it's the most important meal of the day is breakfast." That shit.
Yeah.
and 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 that's not helpful for a start. And also that suddenly we have these types of food that are synonymous with breakfast. I chuck that out straight away. I'm like, right, have you got any leftover chicken? Like, chuck that in some muffins. Oh, you got some broccoli? Like, right, brilliant.
Right.
Chuck that in some,
Yeah.
egg. Do a load of muffins. Absolutely winner. And it's protein in every meal, and build around that.
Yeah.
I mean, that is absolutely one of my non-negotiables.
Yeah.
I have so well, this is with each one-to-one client, so I will be I like to say, right, you've got these non-negotiables that we're agreeing, and pretty much I do I have yeah, I don't have any clients that I don't have the non-negotiable of protein in every meal.
Yeah. Yeah.
um and we do, and then we I would say it might be a good thing for us to do another podcast on excuse me, supplements and stuff when I've stopped dying. But there are supplements that are evidence backed, that don't cost the earth, that are really, really good to actually
Yeah.
use. And I think that is again a conversation that needs opening up really early doors with people, because you can assume that people know this stuff, because people go out and they find their own stuff out, and that's absolutely brilliant. But by reiterating it, and I've had it this week with an old client, and I've said, wait a minute, let's talk about creatine for one. And that gets raised eyebrows straight away whenever I am at an event. And suddenly the pens come out and they're like, really? What?
Yeah.
Really? But I don't lift loads of weights. And I was like, right, we'll deal with that one in a
Yeah.
second
Yeah.
about the resistance. But anyway, and it's the understanding that we're not standing there selling them these things. I turn around and go, right, get yourself to Home Bargains and B&M, and there's pots of it for, like, you can get 60 servings for like 15 quid,
Yeah.
or
I know.
even it's cheaper on
Yeah.
Amazon as well. I'm
Yeah.
just doing adverts for companies right now.
I know.
But this is my whole point, is I'm not here, and this is what I say to clients as well. Creatine, so protein in every meal, creatine, excuse me, vitamin D. You're just laughing at me dying at the same time, aren't you? Can you finish the list off? What
Yeah,
else?
I'll do the list. You mute yourself and just die. Magnesium if you're struggling with sleep. You said creatine, you said vitamin D, magnesium, and omega-3 fish oil if you are a fish eater, or you can use, there are vegan and veggie supplements that you can use. It's normally made from algae. Have I missed anything else?
The tinned fish, I'm butting in now, but tinned fish, get the tinned fish with the edible bones in, get more bang for your buck in them.
Cheaper.
There are so many things that you don't have to default to. These, I'm sorry, but like, if people don't like me saying it, but these bullshit adverts that, you know, they're asking people to pay like £100 a month for supplements with very, very little evidence to back them up. Creatine's like got something like 500 plus
It's
studies.
the most
It's
well
yeah,
researched, but it's more well researched than protein.
yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing is, and if you can have that conversation with people, be it in front of a hall full or, you know, one to one with your clients or whatever, it's then you have given them that information. You're helping them with the knowledge. It's up to them to make that decision. But hopefully they'll realise that actually going and getting them, you know, going to supermarket and getting themselves vitamin D, omega-3, you know, and creatine, that ain't going to be as expensive as this over here that doesn't probably have
The
enough of
bracelet,
any of them in.
the
Or
bracelet.
don't stop mentioning the bracelet. Absolutely winds me up. I've had to take the picture off my photos because it just literally triggers me so much. Anyway,
I'm gonna throw one in there,
go
right?
on.
Okay, so this is just anecdotal.
I think I know what you're going to say, but go on. Oh wait. Let me write it
Right
down before you say it.
down.
Right.
Oh, I
Right.
wonder if she's going to get this right.
Go on.
Okay, so I have been taking electrolytes.
Oh,
Oh, I've
oh.
surprised you. So waking up in the middle of the night to wee has been the bane of my life for years, because I was thirsty all day, so I was drinking a lot of water. So now I take electrolytes in the morning with me to the gym and drink those in my water, which means I'm absorbing the
Mm.
hydration better, and I'm not weeing all through the day, all through the night.
So were you saying about anecdotally, and I think this is the other thing actually to give a nod to, is that there are experiences that people have had with other let's say supplements or other it's the best way to put it, like
Mm-hmm.
alternatives, yeah, that don't have that need more studies basically, and and also strategies that have helped some people as well. And I tell you, one of the strategies that anecdotally off from clients is a protein snack before bedtime.
Yeah, I do that as well.
I do.
Yeah,
Yeah, I could never get on with it. I've never
yeah.
really been able to get on with it. I'm not a big.
Protein yogurt or something.
Yeah, I'm just. Yeah, and it's individuals, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
And then I was going to say one other thing. Then that's completely menopause break. Oh no, I tell you, the last Helen, the women's health expert, she was talking about um urgency and frequency of going to the loo and stuff like that. And so I know that I was triggering myself when I was waking up in the middle of the night. I basically was waking up and just going, oh, well, I'll just go try.
Yeah,
Oh, I'll need to go to that. And honestly, at one point, it was getting to 4 and 5 times in the
yeah,
night. So I then kind of went through it was basically trying to psychologically train myself
yeah,
out of it and just try and go back to sleep. And
yeah,
that took some doing, but I'm now down to pretty much it's usually once a night.
yeah,
But I do think a lot of that's wrapped up in having the routine, the bedtime routine of, you know, sleeping and waking at the same time, and also the activity during the day. And if you are going to nap, don't nap too long, or don't nap. You know, and the exercise helping and
yeah,
things like that.
yeah. Speaking of routine, then, so the other thing that I just want to throw in, because we've kind of talked exercise, we've talked nutrition. So if we think about lifestyle, then I cannot, I can't pin down, I don't think, one kind of lifestyle thing. But
Uh,
I,
go on. I've got one.
for me, having like a morning routine and a nighttime routine means that if I, like today, I've had, poor me, I've had, you know, apart from my half-hour gym session, which I don't class as me time, I class that as functional, keeping me moving, right? But I've had no downtime today, and I promised myself downtime and I didn't give myself downtime because I found more things to do. But getting up this morning, I was awake at 4:30, so I got up at 5, and then no one else in the house got up until 6:30. I had an hour and a half to myself this morning. I made a nice cup of coffee. We've said this before, that cup of coffee when there's no one else awake is the best cup of
Oh,
coffee of the day. And
absolutely.
then having a really strong nighttime routine, you know, the absolute fact that I have my pajamas on. Oh, you can't see my pajamas on underneath this Instagram live. My teeth are brushed. Yep, so is she. Because I will go say hello to my husband and then I will head upstairs to bed and start my nighttime routine. So having routine that protects my head from everything else that's going on,
So valuable.
non-negotiable.
But and it's finding the thing that works for you and
Yeah,
that is right for you. And the biggest one for me, and people aren't going to like it, but is the reducing or not drinking, reducing alcohol.
yeah,
And we can be very, very guilty of again not talking about it enough, and just that one or two glasses while you're cooking the tea or while you're eating, and it has this massive ripple effect upon your sleep, the night sweats, anxiety the next day.
yeah.
I when I didn't know that I was perimenopausal, and then I was the day after, that beer fear is just
Awful.
another level.
Yeah,
But when you're going through this, it's an
yeah,
absolute another
yeah.
level.
It is really now something I choose when to do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I
You know,
think,
it has to be a real yes.
but you've pinpointed it there, and that is the whole thing. It's a choice because
Yeah,
you understand the implications, and it's not a case of waggly finger, don't do it. It's right. These are the facts, and in a sense, and this is what will happen. You make that choice,
yeah,
and you don't do it the night before you're going to have the most bonkers day or
yeah,
something the next day, or you're running around ragged with the kids
yeah,
and things like that.
yeah,
But I've just realized we've absolutely flitted between like different topics there, which is which is it. I'm
well,
like, I'm
we
mega
started
enjoying it
talking
again.
about how, and then we pinpointed some exercise, nutrition, and lifestyle factors, which I think are really,
Yeah, no, but one of the things that I was thinking is going back to the how do you know that you are? So to summarize, we were saying if there's a suspicion that you are, get tracking. And I think one of the things that I wanted to mention was when it came to the tracking was track not only the symptoms but how prevalent they are within your daily life,
yeah,
and the severity of which they impact upon your daily life, so that then you can make sure you track them for I'd be tracking them for at least a month.
yeah. I mean,
And
I would say 3
yeah,
personally.
yeah,
Probably
yeah,
take you that long to get a GP
yeah.
appointment. She didn't.
Did you go there? uh and yeah, and actually, to be fair, I am not I work with a lot of GPs, and I think one of the real positives from them has been that because this is becoming more and more a conversation that's happening, they're then having conversations with women that are knowledgeable and that they are asking questions about their bodies. And you know, one of the most powerful questions that you can ask is, are there any reasons why I can't take HRT or
Yeah.
can't have be prescribed HRT?
Yeah.
You know, and that's a very different question to somebody being told and not really understanding what
No.
they're talking about in a
No.
sense.
The other thing I would do is I would just add to that, and then we probably should wrap this up, but is don't assume if you see a female GP that she will automatically have a full understanding and education and information around the topic, because you know there's two factors here. They don't get a huge amount of education, and you know most GP appointments you're given a 10-minute slot, but you will know that you go in and so often they're 30 minutes behind, so your 10-minute slot is squeezed down. So don't assume just because you're seeing a female GP that if she says you know you're not perimenopausal or whatever, that just because she's female does not mean that she is right.
It comes down to knowledge
Yeah.
and being empowered with that knowledge to ask questions about your body. And if you
Yeah.
feel that the answers are not right, then you know ask for second opinions. And you know, reach out to people. The I would say Dr. Naomi Potter and Dr. Louise Newsom on Instagram. They are fantastic. And I mean, I could mention other doctors, you know, around here as well. But in terms of, you know, those well-known names,
Yeah.
they are absolutely fantastic in terms of, you know, their knowledge, and what they, you know, have helped thousands of people to
Yeah.
learn.
Yeah.
But from a fitness and nutrition point of view, there's our DMs are always open, aren't they, my dear?
They are.
Even
They are.
if I'm joking about you putting your makeup on.
Even if you're joking about putting your makeup on, or you are dying because you breathed in your squash.
I did. I totally inhaled it. I'm really sorry about that, people.
That'll be a nice podcast listen, but it's fine.
Yeah. Turn down the audio on that one.
Right.
But
Okay. So we'll see everyone. Oh, at the end of December.
oh wow, yeah. We'll have done Christmas.
That'll be fun.
That is fun. Oh, fantastic. Right. Well, I will speak to you soon, my
Yeah,
love.
I'm
It's been
sure
fab as ever.
it has. See you later. Have a
See you
good evening.
later. Take
Bye.
care. Bye. How do I get off? Oh.
I'm going to end it.